Hello, my name is Kelly Wandell, and today I will be doing a presentation about the Ford Motor Company. The title of my presentation is One Ford or a New Business Strategy. This presentation is for my final capstone, Cap 795, and that is for Professor Jeffrey Miles. Alright, so we're going to talk today about the environmental analysis, the current situation at Ford Motor Company, looking at a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, so both the internal and external environment as it currently stands. We'll look at business ethics, different decisions, and kind of the legality, kind of outcomes of what happened both in the past and how that currently looks today. And then we'll look at some different leadership strategies at Ford over time. And hopefully by addressing these three things, we can make some good recommendations about whether or not Ford needs to keep the One Ford business model or look at some new business strategies. So what is One Ford? Well, in 2006, Ford got a new CEO. They actually promoted their first non-Ford family member as a CEO, and his name was Alan Muley, and he became the CEO of the multinational Ford Motor Company. At the time, Ford needed a new perspective and they needed a transformation. And just really overall, they needed some organization within the company. And so that's what Muley did. He implemented a new value system called One Ford. Basically what One Ford did was it brought people, products, and processes together from all over the company to create a culture where everyone would be focused towards one goal. And basically that one goal was the success of Ford. And this strategy was deemed successful as it saved the company from bankruptcy. It made Ford a more focused company, a company that was better operationally, better financially, better organizationally, and better strategically. Then in 2013, Ford Motor Company actually announced that it had its highest profit since 2003 before the recession, which was pretty impressive. So One Ford did some really, really good things. Then in 2014, the company actually saw a decline in its profits, again in 2015 and 2016. So now it's under a new leader. Mark Fields is his name. And so the question remains, should One Ford be enough of a strategy to propel Ford through the next decade? Or does Fields, the new leader, does he need to come up with a new strategy for the Ford Motor Company? So to begin with, let's take a look at an analysis of the environment. Here's the SWOT analysis, looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So to begin with strengths, so One Ford, as we've just recently heard about, was obviously a very positive thing toward the structure of the Ford Motor Company. Ford actually had some really resounding effects on the operational efficiency. The company was able to reduce its platforms from 27 different vehicle platforms to 9 in order to have some better operational efficiency. In addition, the One Ford model reorganized the company's culture. Historically, Ford was known to sort of blame people or look to blame during times of problem. But then this new culture came into place that really sought answers, and really sought out asking questions about how to help during and how to fix problems during times of need. So One Ford really was a help to the structure at the Ford Motor Company. In addition, the Ford F-Series trucks are a huge strength for the company. Ford actually receives award after award after award for the F-Series truck. It is the most popular line in the U.S., and it keeps the U.S. profit very profitable because of the F-Series. And more Ford consumers return to buy Ford products than any automotive brand on the market, and that is because of this F-Series trucks. So a very, very big strength for the Ford Motor Company. And lastly, I need to mention that the Ford Motor Company is both an automotive manufacturer, as well as they do offer financial services. So they kind of have two different business sectors, though it is important to note that 94% of their business is in the automotive manufacturing, and then only 6% of their business is on the financial side. But it just shows that the company is diversified in their business. On to weaknesses. So in 2014, 15, and 16, we have seen net profits and revenues declining, which certainly is not a good thing for the company. In addition, the international market share is an area that Ford could look to expand. Currently 62% of Ford's sales are in the U.S., only 8% in the UK, 6% in Canada, and 4% in Germany. So basically, the company should look to expand into areas where the population is growing, and on a global scale, that would be China, India, and Thailand. In terms of opportunities, we see that right now there are 28 cities with 10 million or more people. It is projected that this number will climb to 41 cities by 2030. This actually presents Ford Motor Company with the opportunity, if they start to look at these numbers now and start to project out how this might help them, they could increase, because of the increased demand, they could develop smaller and smarter cars to sell to this population. In addition, the middle class is growing, an area that Ford has always focused on, and they can continue to focus on some cheap, efficient, and reliable transportation in their production and development models. And lastly, threats. The first one, millennials currently have a greater preference towards public transportation, both in the urban and suburban locations. This is essentially reflective of a more efficient trend because of the rapid pace in the world, and basically because transportation provides an ease of use, it's cheap cost, and it allows people to do things while they're moving. It has become a popular mode of transportation, which certainly hurts the automotive industry. So the Ford Company needs to look into investment of like self-driving technology. And I think this is kind of where the automotive industry is already headed, to sort of combat this need. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into the recommendation portion later. In addition, another threat would be the impact of cars on human health and environment. Consumers and government want more efficient vehicles with less harmful emissions. This certainly presents challenges in research and development, and it encourages the Ford Motor Company to quickly produce additional electric and hybrid car models. All right, so business ethics. So we're going to look at some business decisions now and then. Certainly, Ford Motor Company is known for its outstanding loyalty and what the new One Ford business model has done. But even though these initiatives as One Ford has been rooted in sustainability, Ford has made some undesirable ethical, legal, and social decisions in the past. And as you can see here under the then, there are a few examples of this, such as the takeover of trees, in the Amazon within Brazil. There was a creation of a toxic sludge pit in Ringwood, New Jersey. And probably most memorable would be the failed human cost benefit analysis of safety improvements with the Ford Pinto. So then when we look over here at the now, we see that there's much more better, titles. So we're seeing like best places to work by the LGBT equality. World's most ethical company from Edisphere. CDP list for water sustainability. Water reduction by 72%. Mentor Me. Bees. They are investing in bee population for environmental sustainability. So as we look, it is possible that one Ford is responsible for realigning Ford's business initiatives with a higher moral compass than some strategies that had been used in the past, which is obviously a very good thing for the Ford Motor Company moving forward, and also for the for humanity and for the environment. In terms of leadership strategies, we're going to look at 3 different main leaders. So those 3 main leaders are Henry Ford, the original Henry Ford, that is. Alan Muley, the past CEO. We'd mentioned him before. He is the gentleman who created the vision of one Ford. And then Mark Fields are their current CEO. So Henry Ford. Many think of him as the original innovator, although he was not an innovator of products. He didn't invent the first automobile, and he did not invent the assembly line. Excuse me. He was, however, considered a successful innovator because he was able to bring together new products, future opportunities, and people in order to carry out a business vision. So he was more of a visionary. Most notably is the Model T automobile that he created or brought together for the middle class. So it was the most affordable automobile for the middle class. Then, if we look more into current day age, we look at Alan Muley, again, the gentleman who brought forward the One Ford vision. He also was a visionary, transformational leader, another very, very powerful leader. He was a man with a strong vision, much like those of the Ford family. And through his transformational leadership style, he too could align strategy and initiatives in order to revolutionize the century-old company. He basically put together an organization vision and a goal for the company, and then he successfully carried it through. All the while, he did this humbly and ethically and with a positive attitude. And then lastly, Mark Fields. Mark Fields is another aspiring leader for Ford. He too has the ability to provide ideas and visions, as well as strategies to carry out. Fields brings more of a technical aspect through his knowledge that he's gained during working at the Ford Motor Company. He has a deep understanding of the ins and the outs of the industry because he has come from within Ford. Additionally, Ford's is very charismatic and should be fun to watch over the next decade. So that brings us to the future recommendations for Ford. So we have this new CEO, and we just recently talked about his leadership characteristics and qualities. Mark Fields is going to need to continue to embrace the One Ford vision within its processes, products, and people. However, the company is going to need more. He's going to need to address the current challenge of figuring out the future. Ford's not going to need to really create something shiny and new because the newest technologies already are identified. Rather, he's going to need the company to stick to its roots and successfully bring together those puzzle pieces that are already created within the industry, that technology, the shiny and the new, and put it together for the consumers. Ford is going to have to reclaim its role or proclaim its role in this new age of electric cars, self-driving vehicles, and public transportation. And as they continue to invest in these three technologies and initiatives, they're going to also have to consider the needs of the consumer, the responsibility of the environment, and also the society. They're going to have to continue to work on projects that could maybe combine some of these technologies, such as manufacturing to develop the self-driving vehicle and combining it with technology within logistics that companies such as Uber use, so that Ford is able to offer things like driving services. Just think if you could have a self-driving vehicle come pick you up, take you somewhere, and drop you off, and then use that as a form of transportation. And the company as Ford could provide that to you without ever having to own an automobile. This type of thinking is going to give Ford a competitive advantage to reform and reshape how Americans and people from across the world are going to make their commute every day. That concludes my presentation. Here's a list of the references that I've used throughout, and I hope that you've enjoyed the show.